In this week's video, we're going to be taking a look at just how big I think the house price correction could be. Just how far, realistically, do I think house prices could fall? So in last week's video, we looked at all of the evidence about the UK economy and what's been happening with the mortgage crisis and interest rates. And it became pretty clear that a UK house price crash is almost a certainty at this point, which leads us on to the question, just how big will the crash be? So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. There are lots of variables that come into play when you're talking about the UK economy and the UK housing market. So I'm just going to try and boil it down to one thing. So hopefully I can communicate clearly to you guys why I feel so strongly that house prices could see the sort of percentage drops that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So in front of me at the moment, we have land registry house prices going all the way back to 2001. And the most recent house price peak was in September 2022, where the average house price in the UK peaked at around about £293,000. Now, there are many, many variables that go into the housing market and house prices and the economy. But ultimately, in my opinion, it all boils down really to one thing. So yes, wages do play a part, and yes, inflation does play a part, and yes, interest rates do, and supply and demand, all of that. But the UK housing market is largely led and dictated by affordability. We know we have plenty of demand in this country for the properties that are available, but how much people not just are willing, but are able to pay for those properties is dictated by affordability. So that's what I want to focus on in this video, and that is affordability and how that has been impacted by what's happened recently and what that could mean for house prices. So let's take this example peak here at £293,000 and bring it over to a basic mortgage calculator. So the average first-time buyer deposit is 25%. So let's do these figures based on that. So we've got a house, the average property price of £293,000 times by 0.25. So they need a deposit of £73,250. So the actual mortgage size will be £293,000 times by 0.75. So just under £220,000. So I'm just going to use 220, so it's round numbers and it's easy to work with. So a mortgage of £220,000 at the old common interest rates of about 2% over a 25-year term would cost you £932 per month. Now this is the problem, as I'm sure you guys are all aware, is that the current mortgage interest rates are a lot higher. So affordability is a lot worse and buying power has taken a massive impact. So as of making this video, the average 2-year and 5-year fixed rate mortgages are above 6%. And if we put that at 6%, that jumps up to £1,417 per month, which is an increase of over 50% on monthly payments. Now I just want to take you over to the maximum loan calculator to show you how this hits buying power. So if someone could afford the original cost, which if we go back and put this back at 2%, if someone could afford the £932 per month, and that was maxing out their affordability, let's come here and put £932 a month at 2%, the bank would lend you £220,000, which makes sense. Those are the figures that we pumped in. Whereas if it's at 6% and we still only want to pay £932 per month, the bank or the average bank may only lend you £144,653. Now, if we round it up to say £145,000, go to the percentage calculator, and all of a sudden, we can't borrow £220,000. We can only borrow £145,000. That is a decrease of 34% in buying power. That is quite a big drop. And I think that is certainly a possibility. Now, you could make the argument that if inflation does come down later this year, maybe not to target, but does come down, and if the economy does start to head a bit towards recession, that the Bank of England might lose their nerve and they may reduce interest rates again. And we saw at the start of this year, in kind of March time, we had interest rates from the mortgage providers were actually slightly below base rate. So we had 4% mortgages, which would be £176,000. So how does that compare instead if that's £176,000? So if mortgage rates ended up somewhere between that, 4%, so that would be a 20% reduction in buying power versus the 145, I think that is your broad range as a target. So somewhere between a minimum of a 20% drop, if interest rates kind of settle down a bit and maybe settle back down towards that 4% mark, versus up towards 35% if interest rates stay higher towards a 6% region that we're in at the moment, and could quite easily stay at for the next few months. So it's very much a question of how long inflation will last, how long interest rates will stay high, and how long that will hit buying power for. Now, there are, as I mentioned at the start of the video, there are lots of other variables. For example, we don't know how buy-to-let is going to unfold. Are we going to see lots of landlords exiting the market and really driving supply up and driving price down? Or we may see a load of cash-rich landlords come in and snap up these properties as they enter the market. We don't know how long inflation is going to last for. We don't know if we're going into recession. I do think that's highly likely. We don't know how many job losses are going to be, because remember, it's not only mortgaged homeowners that are going to be hit by high interest rates, we're also going to see business and corporate debt, which is going to lead to job losses. And if we see job losses, we're going to see more forced home sales, and it will be part of a vicious cycle. So there are so many variables, but just boiling it down to this one thing, to just affordability. If buying power is hit at a minimum of 20%, if mortgages settle about 4%, versus anywhere up to around about 35% if mortgages stay at 6%, I think that is the zone you should be looking. And I made a prediction video around about 9 months ago where I talked about where I felt house prices were going, and I ultimately concluded in that video, I think it'll be somewhere between 25 to 30%. And I haven't seen anything over the past 9 months that has changed that. I still think we've got a substantial change in calls coming, and the house prices are going to fall substantially. So that is where I am on this. If you want to post your predictions in the comments below, or if you look at the pinned top comment, you'll see my Twitter handle. You can come and post them on Twitter as well. What I'm going to do now is pop up the video from last week, which talks you through why I believe that the house price crash cannot be stopped. And I'll see you guys over there.